So I would like to welcome to the stage Yulia Bondar from M2 Mobi. She'll be talking today about the modern Stoicism, how to practice discipline and stay calm during the crisis. Whoa, sounds impressive. Hi, Julia. How are you?
Hi, Vasil. I'm great. Yeah, having fun at home as everyone. So, well, happy to be here and to be present in the conference and looking forward to start talking as well.
That's great. Okay, we're switching the screen to yourself and to your presentation. I'll be happy to hear and to learn a lot from here. After this session, we'll have the Q&A session as well, and the first conference will be finished. So thank you. Passing to Julia.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I'm going to start. My topic is how to apply ancient wisdom to modern life. And when I was thinking about what I want to talk today during these times, these unpredictable times of a lot of worries and anxiety, I thought that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let me check something technically. I'm not sure if it's working correctly. Well, hopefully we are back and you can see the slides. Apologize if something goes wrong here. My first experience of doing remote presentation, but let's get right away to the material. So what I wanted to say is that today I want to talk about ancient wisdom of Stoicism philosophy and how to apply it to the modern life. I find it can be very important topic nowadays because we all are in uncertainty. We all experience some anxiety and difficulties because we need to adjust our life to the new style and we don't know what happens next. And back to the times, ancient Greeks already figured out some top practices which can help us. And so let's do that. Before I'm gonna talk, I want to do a small disclaimer. So I wanted to do it really differently from the way how we talk now about the state of remote work and about some practical exercises. So today I'm gonna focus more on the philosophical concepts, which are gonna be a bit abstract, but those concepts which were being practiced through the centuries by many philosophers, but not only, but also by famous people who were very successful in IT and technology. And I will describe some basic principles of Stoicism philosophy, which we can apply to adjust to nowadays crisis. And they will try to translate them to the normal vocabulary. And we will focus today on the mindset, like how we will shift the mindset so we are feeling fine and we feel purpose during this time being. We need to adjust rather than to very practical things. I think Magdalena also covered a lot of great practicalities. So now with me, we're going to talk more about mindset. And in the end of the presentation, I will share the practical links to the literature, but also to a lot of exercises which you can do while you're staying home and really practice the Stoicism.
Troszeczkę powolniejsze. Dobra.
So now let's move to the next slide. Let me tell a bit more about myself first. My name is Yulia. I'm originally from Ukraine. I've been in HR and recruitment and talent acquisition for the past 8.5 years. Now I currently live and work in the Netherlands, and I am a consultant in international recruitment, but my initial background is in psychology. And back to my student times, I was fond of philosophy as well as different philosophical practices. That's why partly I choose this topic. And last but not least, for the recent time, I've also become consultant in a career coaching. So I help people who have some difficulties in their job or burnout, or maybe they want to grow professionally further, and I help and consult them how to do that. So that's a bit about myself. Let's get straight to the topic. Let me explain the context, and let's talk about what is Stoicism and why we can benefit from practicing it now. So Stoicism is a ground to a cognitive behavioral psychotherapy. So there is one of the most successful types of psychotherapy in the world, most proven and most valid. And the basics of this psychotherapy is built up on Stoicism practices. Stoicism as a philosophical movement is religiously agnostic. That's why it's great to practice it, because no matter what kind of religion you have, it doesn't stick to God, Jesus, Allah, etc. And you can just follow it by experiencing some mind and body practices. And for me, a bit of my personal context as well. My mother, she's a Buddhist, and while learning Stoicism and having this context of Buddhism close by, I realized that they are very, very similar, and the practices are very similar. That's why partly Stoicism is a mindfulness practice, the practice of awareness, which is also very popular right now, and a lot of people practice it every day, or they have the app on their phone. And this has also been highly advised as a good tool to use nowadays during these anxious times. Let's talk a bit, before we go to the rules and principles of Stoicism, let's talk a bit about the founders and the modernists of this practice. So the Stoicism overall is led by three main figures. These are Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. Seneca was a very wealthy statesman in Rome, and he made a lot of letters and rules on Stoicism. Epictetus is a very interesting figure because he used to be a slave, and then he got free, and then he became a philosopher, also a Stoic philosopher, which means that this philosophy was also applicable not only for highest people, but people in different ranges. And Marcus Aurelius is a famous Roman emperor who also is very well known for his like strong will and power. I also added here Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl is 20th century famous psychologist who who happened to be in a camp and in a survivor camp, and he is the founder of logotherapy, which tells that even in a very hard circumstances, people can find the meaning for their life and purpose and stay healthy. Then I just want to name you a few famous people who follow Stoicism and who told that helps them a lot in become successful, famous, and go to their purpose. This is Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, Nelson Mandela. From more modern world, there is a famous writer John Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, and the David Heinemeier Hansson. I figured out this is a founder of Ruby on Rails framework. Then there is also Arnold Schwarzenegger and Nassim Taleb. So a lot of famous people are actually following it. That's why I think it's interesting to look into the basic rules that they have. So let's move to the rules of Stoicism. The first one would be know you are disturbed by not what happened with you, but your opinion about it. So in the end, it means in every difficult situation, let's say in which we are right now, and when we have some worry, etc., try to distinguish which things you can control and which things are circumstances you cannot affect on. Like, for example, pandemic is not something we can affect on, but our attitude to the situations and actions we do within the circumstances we can control. So the Seneca tells that there is nothing good or bad unless we choose to make it so, and we shouldn't try to lead events, but follow them. That will mean in the end that actually only thing you can control is your thoughts and behavior, and that is the main thing you should focus on. So let's say there is no reason to be upset about raining because you cannot change, the rain outside. But what you can do, you can change your attitude, and rather to be pissed on something, you can, think about nice time spending home or reading the book, etc. And what also Stoics says in terms of this rule is that first, you need to challenge your irrational thoughts. So every time when you start to worrying about something, think, is it something I can control or I can change? Then start to think about actions. Or is it the circumstances you can affect? Then start worrying about it. The next rule is try to become the best friend with your inner self. So ancient Greeks and Romans, they had a special word for the meaning, which is called eudaimonia, which means actually be with a better of yourself. And eudaimonia is a good inner soul of ours, which is always present. Stoics believe that we always have this super ego or the best version of us, which is guiding us, and in some terms, which we need always to talk with, to see if we are doing the best what we can. And actually, for the modern world, I think this is called autonomy, and this is the basic thing for well-being and mental health. And what Stoic says about it. So you need to live with three main virtues. First virtue is wisdom, so knowledge how to live in optimized way, not how to be the smartest, the best, but what we can do following the circumstances we are. Justice, which is integrity, and the courage, which also turns to self-mastery. What does it mean, actually? In a real life, try to express the highest version of yourself in every moment, and do the mental and behavioral practices to be best versions of yourself. So don't try to compare yourself with others, but try to think, who is the person I want to be, and follow it. Well, the good example may be when you are looking in your professional career in IT, don't try to, be destroyed by what other people do, what other frameworks they have, etc. But try to think about what is your path, what are you doing, and how to get there, and don't get distracted by anything else. This is the rule of Stoics. The next rule is take responsibility and practice. So when we now talk about philosophy, we always imagine a person who is sitting with the books and trying to talk about some abstract stuff. This is modern philosophy. The ancient philosophy was actually a doing, a practice. So which meant to be a real philosopher, be the barrier of mind, not a librarian. And this means for Stoics is always to think how we can live optimally and train the mind for emotional stability. So they say, if you want to do anything good, you must get it from yourself. And which in the reality means be in the moment, practice mindfulness, meditate, go for a walk. For current conditions, go for a walk by yourself and stay in in a distance. What tools I can suggest here in order to be more mindful and to listen to your own feelings and thoughts. There are tools which is Headspace or Calm. They are for doing meditation. You can start from 3 minutes meditation. These are mobile apps. You can do 3 minutes meditation. You can then do 10 minutes meditation, and that will help you to calm down and also to understand your feelings better. The next rule is know your way and walk it. The Stoics say they have a term for this as well. It is called energized tranquility, which actually means be out in the society, but also go back and have time to reflect on yourself and what are your needs and what are your feelings. Don't get distracted without second guessing and comparing. So for example, how we can apply it to nowadays. We all have our roles shifted. We all sitting at home. Somebody have to shift to remote work. Somebody is losing their job or having uncertainties. And what we can do, we can try to adapt to the role we have, to the circumstances we have, and think about action points we can do in order to be the best versions of ourselves. The tools which I can recommend here and which is the ancient Stoics practice is night meditation and cognitive journaling. So first one, night meditation is very simple. Just ask yourself 4 questions before you go to bed. And it looks very much like retrospective to me in Scrum. So what was good during the day? What was wrong? What I could improve? And what I can appreciate, what I can be appreciated for. These 4 questions will help you to stay focused positively and also to look into the things which you can change by yourself. And cognitive journaling is another technique, kind of similar, but actually means to start having a diary and put at least 3-4 thoughts during the day that you had and try to reflect what's happening and then reread it. This is also very helpful if you're really anxious or worrying a lot, and that will just help you to rationalize your thoughts and feelings and let go. The next rule is think about the worst and accept it. This is that may sound not really positive, but the idea is to think about worst scenario that can happen. So what if everything can go wrong? And try to think about every outcome of this situation. The Stoics call it Deo Volente principle, which actually means God will or God willing. So yes, we have a lot of plans. You maybe had planned for traveling or going into the conferences or etc., etc., etc. But the fate in the end rules it. So we need to accept that not everything is in our control. And the Stoics also say that if you want absolute certainty, be prepared for the worst scenario. Then you would also know how to deal with this worst scenario. The next thing which I've taken from Stoic is called equanimity game. This is also like mind game or thought game. And it basically tells you when you are off balance, when you are like feeling shitty, notice it and then see how fast you can catch yourself and correct and go back to the balance. So every time when you feel like if you're in a traffic jam or now if you're losing patience because you're stuck in the closed apartment and you cannot go out, just follow your feelings and see how fast you can get calmer. And there is the mantra for that. So the thoughts which you can repeat if you feel anxious, angry, frustrated, etc. It's called obstacles makes me stronger. So just try to think about it when you are in a hard situation, and that will help. Another rule is learn how to stay focused. So another rephrase of this rule is does sound I don't know and I don't care. This is about us being all disturbed that we missing a lot of opportunities, that there are something better in the place at which we are and we are not there. So when we get distracted, for example, for the news or constantly updating the status, etc., we are not following our path, which means we are going the wrong way. But if we are focused on the only things we know how to do on our action plan, then we don't have fear of missing out, we are not disturbed, and we don't feel social pressure. So always focus on all version of yourself and how you can become better rather than comparing you with others. And in current situation, I would say that it's very important indeed not to scroll the news, maybe update yourself once per day, but just try to stick to your routine, to your rituals, and that will help you to go through it. Another rule is, well, this is kind of a funny one. I called it, what would the Batman do? That's not, of course, how they called it back to the ancient Greece. But anyway, so it's about thinking about the person, maybe your hero or somebody you really admire or your role model for the work, career, I don't know, and think what that person would do in the hard situation and try to apply it to the situation you have in the life. For me, it works the way is that if when I work at the company as a recruiter, HR manager, and I have difficult situations in recruitment, I always think how they solve it in Google or how they solve it in Netflix. Think about it, read it, investigate, and try to apply as much as I can to my daily life. Well, that was actually the last rule I want to share with you today. However, as I promised, there are a lot of useful resources which you can find online, which are not old Stoic practices from ancient Greeks, but more adopted versions. So there is a huge movement which is called modern Stoicism, and you can have a look in the websites and books I'm sharing here. The Daily Stoic is a very nice resource which gives you like daily advices on how to deal with the stress and how to be disciplined in a normal modern words. So I can highly recommend it. There is also a list with 20 practical exercises which you can use every day. And they are also very simple and straightforward and very focused on self-reflection and changing the attitude to the situation. If you are more fan of the podcasts, there are Tim Ferriss podcasts. You can listen. Tim Ferriss is a modern stoicist who really try to make it popular, and now it's a big movement in Silicon Valley. And he has a lot of podcasts by himself, but also some invited guests. And if you want, you can always write me, and I can also consult you a bit on what to look or what to do. So thank you. You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook if you want to connect. I'll be happy.